Hello, Achim Yekarim. How are you? I hope you had a wonderful week. We're all preparing for Shabbat Kodesh. And of course, this is the holiest day of the week. The holiest day of the year is every Shabbat. Every Shabbat needs to be sanctified and a time for us to connect to Hashem in the highest level. But today I wanted to address a very critical and confusing issue in today's generation about who is your rabbi. Who is your rabbi? What makes a rabbi a rabbi? Is it what most people in the Western world believe, which is they need to have some type of certificate called a smicha? Is it if they pass the test, they're officially a rabbi, and that makes them, the leader of the nation or of their keilah, their community, or is it something else? Now, of course, we all know that all of the laws, all of the halachot, all of the details that we have in Judaism must have a source in the Torah. It cannot be from our own logic. It cannot be from our own will. It must have a Torah source. So to clarify this very, very big confusion, we've addressed this in shiurim before, but we need to make a special shiur just for this, to make sure that none of us ever make this mistake and think that something is right when it's really incorrect. So we go back to something that was written nearly 2,000 years ago, which is the Gemara. It's the critical part of the oral Torah, all of which we got from Mount Sinai 3,300 years ago. So this is not something that some rabbis wrote just because they felt like it, they were bored, they had nothing to do. No, all of the knowledge that we have in the oral Torah is information we got from Moses from Mount Sinai. We weren't allowed to put it to writing, that's why it's called oral Torah, for a little over almost 2,000 years. But when Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Rebbe is also his name, saw that the oral Torah, our memory, is little by little disappearing, and our understanding of the oral Torah is little by little disappearing, they decreed that we are allowed to write the oral Torah. So the oral Torah, the critical part of it is the Gemara, and we go to the tractate of Masechet Bava Metzia. The tractate of Bava Metzia, page 33, side A. In this Gemara, it says there's three rabbis, three of our sages that answer the question of who is a rabbi. Because again, remember, in the Gemara, anyone that's mentioned by name is at a level where they could literally have the kedusha and the God-willed power to revive the dead. These are not just your ordinary rabbi that just learned a few years in yeshiva and is now a head of a keilah of 30 people. These people that are mentioned specifically by name in the Gemara are the holiest of holy people in our history and in the world itself. So it says, Tanu Rabbanan, Rabbo She'amro. So the teaching says, who is your rabbi? So Rabbi Meir says, the one that taught you divrei chokhmah, the one that taught you the most sophisticated part of the Torah, which is the Gemara itself, and not the one that taught you the Mishnah, or the one that taught you the Chumash, which is the written Torah. Those are simpler to understand, those are not as sophisticated as the Gemara. So the one rabbi, if you have 10 rabbis, but one specific one is the one that taught you your knowledge in Gemara, he's your rabbi. But then Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it's the rabbi that taught you most of your knowledge. Not just taught you knowledge, but most of the knowledge you possess. So if, let's say, for example, someone has, out of 100% of his knowledge that he has, he's learned it from, let's say, 10 rabbis, but 40% was from one rabbi, and 60% is spread among, the other 9. So obviously, the rabbi that taught him most of this knowledge, he's considered his rabbi. But then Rabbi Yossi says, no, afilu lo einav ela b'mishnah achat, zeu rabo. So the law is finalized with Rabbi Yossi. He says, no, it's even someone that taught him a single Mishnah, a single law in Torah, he's his rabbi. Where is his source? Nothing less than King David himself, one of the holiest people that ever lived, the fourth leg in the chair of Kedusha for Hashem is King David, and we learn this lesson from King David. How do we learn this lesson? from the story between King David and his arch nemesis named Achitophel. Achitophel was a very, very wicked man that tried to kill King David and become the next king. But King David called him Rabbi Alufi Umeyudai. He called him my rabbi, my champion, the source of my knowledge. How could you call your arch nemesis such a name? Why? Because King David says, he taught me two things in Torah I didn't know. So he's a rabbi. Even though he was an enemy of his, he still considered him a rabbi. So of course, this is again a teaching that not only we have from the sages we have, but we have all the way tracking back to King David himself 3,000 years ago. So here, what is the bottom line of all of this? Is that here we learn that to be a rabbi, the people that are called rabbis in the Gemara are sages. We're not like rabbis today that just passed a test and are able to, be the chazan in their cantor or maybe give a shiur once a week to a few people that come. The rabbis in the Gemara were the equivalent of today's poskim, which is the ones that dictate the laws. They were not just, rabbis of a keilah. The rabbis of the Gemara were the leaders of the generation. So to have a rabbinical smicha, when it's referred to that, when they talk about smicha in the Gemara, in the oral Torah, they're talking about someone that is at the highest level in the entire generation. Not just someone that just learned Torah for the last few years and, okay, we want to call him rabbi to give him some respect. No. So who's the rabbi? What do we learn from this? It's the one that teaches Torah. If you teach Torah, you are officially a rabbi. Whether you pass a test, you don't pass a test, is irrelevant. If you teach Torah, you're officially a rabbi. But not just anyone that teaches Torah. Can't be. What if somebody teaches Torah, but on the side, he's sleeping with women that are not allowed to him? On the side, he's the most prideful person on earth. On the side, he tells people you're allowed to drive on Shabbat to Bet Knesset. What about those people? For here, we have to understand these are the fake people that we have today. Unfortunately, there are some. Baruch Hashem, there are a lot of righteous rabbis in the world, but unfortunately, there's also many fake ones that tell people that they can do things that are against the Torah. And here we go to another Gemara, Masechet Iruvin, page 45, side A. Lo b'shamayim hi Torah. The Torah that's present in this person, that's prideful, that's pretty much making his own laws with his nose in the sky, his Torah is not from heaven. His Torah, he just learned it like a history book. You're not allowed to learn his Torah. If someone calls himself a rabbi or calls himself whatever he wants to call himself, but he's full of pride, he's full of nonsense, and he does not have Yirat Shamayim, not only are you not allowed to learn his Torah, it's a sin to learn his Torah. Im adam lo agun, asur lilmod Torah shelo. Torato to'avat Hashem. If someone does not have integrity, you are not allowed to learn his Torah because his Torah is disgusting to Hashem. So now it's not just anyone that passed the test. We already learned that. It's not just anyone that teaches Torah. We just learned that. First of all, the test is only relevant if you have a specific need for it. So if you want to become a shochet, a butcher, you have to pass a test. If you want to be a rabbi that makes a shchupa and kiddushin to marry people, that's a specific test you have to have. It's a specific smicha you have to have in order to function, to do that. You have to be an expert in it. But if it's for teaching purposes, then you don't need to have a smicha for teaching purposes. You need to learn. But if you're teaching, but your teaching is coming from a wrong place, where you're teaching things that are not in the Torah, or you have bad midot, you have bad character traits, and you're not a person with integrity, then not only are your students not allowed to learn from you, but learning from that rabbi, from that rasha, that wicked person, is actually a sin. So this is why we all have to be very, very careful with who we learn from and who we call a rabbi and who we don't. Last but not least, this is again another proof in our generation of the fact that this whole concept of needing a smicha makes a rabbi or doesn't make a rabbi. You look no further than the two giants of the last several generations. May their schut protect us, which is Rabbi Ovadia Yosef and Rabbi Elyashiv, as well as many others, but those two are the ones that I specifically mentioned in an article addressing this question in the past. Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, everyone knows he was the Gdol Ador. Rabbi Elyashiv, everyone knows they were the Gdolei Ador. These were the giants of the generation. These were Dayanim. They were the highest level of judges, not just rabbis, but judges in our generation. And if anyone doesn't know, which unfortunately many don't know, neither one of them ever took a rabbinical test. Neither one of them ever got the official smicha that is constantly referred to today as the smicha that makes the rabbi. But if you look them up, they do have a smicha. So what is this smicha that they have? The smicha that they have, the certificate they have, is called Gaon Mukar, a known genius. Once someone is known as a genius in Torah, where they know the Torah by heart, they know all of it, they know Shulchan Aruch, the Gemara, the written Torah, all the poskim, all the midrashim, they know all of these things. They're just geniuses, and they obviously live accordingly. Then they don't need to pass a test to show anyone anything. It's already a known thing amongst the community that these people are very, very special, holy people, and they were not only given the smicha of rabbis, but they were given the smicha of being a dayanim, the heads of our generation. So this is not only a source from the Gemara that we know that a smicha of today does not make somebody a rabbi. Somebody can pass the test 50 times, but if they don't have yirat shamayim, they don't have fear of the Almighty, their Torah is disgusting. Their Torah is not holy. You're not allowed to learn it. They tell you to drive on Shabbat to Beit Knesset. You're not allowed to learn from them. They tell you it's okay for a man to be with a man, a woman to be with a woman. Their Torah is disgusting. They're heretics. They tell you to do things. It's okay to eat non-kosher once in a while. It's okay to do things that are against the Torah. You're never allowed to learn from those people. They're not rabbis. They're not nothing. They're zeros. But if someone is teaching Torah and is mamash contributing his time and his whole livelihood to teaching people Torah, he's a rabbi. He doesn't need a test. If he's such a level that he not only has the fear of Hashem and he's teaching Torah and he's putting his life on the line all the way to the point that he gets to a point where he knows the entire Torah, or a huge part of it by heart, and he lives and he teaches and he does all of these things to the point where it's recognizable that he's a Gaon, then he's a Gaon Mukar. No smicha is ever needed for such a person, as we learned from Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, and Rabbi Elyashiv. So again, before we jump to conclusion of who's a rabbi, where's your smicha, do you have a smicha, do you not have a smicha, none of that stuff matters. What matters is who are you, how you behave, and what is your source of knowledge. If your source of knowledge is the Torah, and you're teaching it just as Hashem said it, and not from your own logic, you're a rabbi. You're a phenomenal rabbi. If you're sacrificing your life to save Jews around the world, to teach them and to bring them back to Hashem, our Gemara, our sages tell us you're as much of a rabbi as the biggest rabbis in history. But if you have all the degrees in the world, but you're teaching things that are against Hashem, or you're not teaching things that you know could be used to save souls, you're worthless. So this is a very, very important question to know and understand. The key here is that everything must have a biblical source. Everything must come from the Torah, and even the question to this the answer to this very confusing question also was asked a few thousand years ago, and Baruch Hashem, here's your answer. May Hashem continue to bless all of you. May you all have a Shabbat Shalom Mevorach, and look forward to speaking to all of you soon. Kol Tuv.